Good evening. I would like to call to order the Bothell Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, September 7th, 2016. And all commissioners are present and accounted for, with the exception of Commissioner Clark, who is absent and excused. And it looks like there's no non-agenda public comments and no minutes to approve. Is there any new business? Okay. And there's no public hearing this evening. And with that, I will hand over the lead to Andy Locke, with the Surface Water, who's the Surface Water Program Manager for the City of Bothell.
Okay, good evening, Planning Commission. Glad to see you're here. So tonight, we're bringing forward to you the final findings report that summarizes what we've been doing here since June. We had one study session, 3 public hearings, if I remember correctly. And so we wrote up the final findings of report, and we can take a look at that as one of the things that we'll do here tonight to make sure that you're good with it. If you have any revisions, we can make those revisions. I want to remind the Planning Commission that right now we're scheduled to go to the City Council in a study session next Tuesday evening, and then we'll be going back to them October 4th for the first public hearing for the code revisions at this time. So, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about that later. So right now what I wanted to do is just generally open it up, let us take a look at the final findings report and begin that discussion. Another topic would be is we have received some emails from Planning Commission members, and we can talk about some of the questions that they had and maybe clear those up as well at the same time. But if that's okay with Planning Commission?
Sure. It looks like Roger.
So can you clarify? So we've had public hearings here, so there's going to be another round of public hearings on the same subject. Is that right with the council? And,
yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think that notice is going out fairly shortly for that one. Okay. So I'll open it back up again now to the findings and conclusions and recommendations. So if, we can either go by it point by point, make sure everybody's okay with what we have here. So we start off with the history, where this was initiated at with City Council back in March. It was part of the Docket of Plan and Code Amendments, and it was remanded to the Planning Commission to take a look at it and get it back to the City Council in 2016. The code amendments can apply citywide. The proposed action is basically a summary that we're doing this because the NPDES permit is requiring us to take a look at our codes to facilitate the use of low impact development techniques. We've had public meetings stated there. June 8th, July 6th, and July 20th were the public hearings, and we had a study session May 18th. Then we cite the places within how we notified everybody of the proceedings here. This is all pretty much template stuff that we typically always do when working with the Planning Commission. This is where the information resides for not only yourself, but also for the citizens of Bothell to take a look at. So just no questions over that. We can go into actually the specific Planning Commission's findings. And here we just basically summarize, not in any great detail, what the discussions were. We did note the citizens who came and attended and what their comments were. We have received a few emails from one of the citizens with asking for more clarification, more thoughts on where they feel we should be with hard surfaces. And so we've answered those emails at this time. We've responded back, provided clarification, more information. But their final conclusion was we're still too high. That was what they were still thinking even at the end. So that's where that resides right now. They too can have the same opportunity to go on to City Council and participate in the public hearing process there and continue to raise their concerns that way as well. And we'll be, as part of the docket process, we will be putting in those emails and the response to the questions and clarifications that'll get moved on to City Council as well. We then go on to cite where we're consistent with our own comprehensive plan, and I cited the goals and policy statements where these types of actions are enabled under the comprehensive plan. Right now, with what's before you, I have sent that on to the Department of Commerce for their 60-day review period, and that expires in October, I believe it's October 12th or 13th is when their comment period expires. It's an important date because City Council can't act on anything until that review is completed. We have a SEPA review is also taking place simultaneously right now. And we provided a list of exhibits, which was basically everything that we provided to you during the previous Planning Commission meetings, the project memos, the different drafts of the codes that we were looking at. So the end and the conclusion is that we're asking that the Planning Commission has agreed that these are the code revisions that they would like to move forward to City Council at this time, and that is your recommendation. And that would conclude the final findings report.
Okay. So Bruce, can we have a discussion then amongst ourselves about people who want to weigh in on any questions they might have remaining?
Yes, I believe that would be absolutely appropriate to
Okay.
make sure that the commission is comfortable with the findings as presented, or if there's things that during the public hearing process, which is this is basically the record of the public hearing process and the Planning Commission's discussions, you want to have augmented or modified, this would be the time to identify those.
Okay, thanks. And I think just before I jump into that, I should have probably said it before I handed over to Andy, but this is for the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System requirements. I don't know if we actually ever said that yet. So let's see. Does Commissioner Cave, do you have?
Just a quick question. On page 2 of the findings, it refers to the AHBL website. There was a lot of good information, attachments as part of that website. Is that going to be integrated into the city of Bothell, or will that be a standalone kind of source of information that people can look at in the future? It had a really good history on kind of stormwater management and LID in general.
We haven't actually discussed the long-term status for that website. Typically, they go away after a period of time, usually when our contract runs out. But it's something that we can discuss with AHBL to see if there is a more permanent link that could be made, or downloading. A lot of the information came from us as well, so it might be a collaborative approach to it, Wayne.
Yeah. If I may, would it be the Planning Commission's desire to have those documents, and I don't recall how many there were, just listed, so that in case you wanted to go and look at some of those, you could quickly find them or know what to look for? I don't recall how many documents it was that you have on your web page.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful just so people know what's out there. I mean, specifically when the city council goes through the study session, I think it would be important that that be maintained, but also just down the road, it was useful for us. I'm sure it would be useful to the general public as well.
Yes, and actually, I think maybe what I can clarify a little bit is that web page will remain open through the course of these public hearing process. They're not going to close it now.
Yeah.
It'll be through that course, but I think what we'll do is that my recommendation would be to have the list prepared here, and it just bullet list, and that way anybody can look it up and find it if they so desire.
Thanks, Bruce. Commissioner Cecil.
I'm sorry, I wasn't at the last meeting, and I haven't met the gentleman next to you, Andy. If you wouldn't mind just introducing him, maybe just for my...
The gentleman next to my right here is Wayne Carlson. He's from AHBL, and he's the replacement for Brad Medrud. who moved on to a different place. He got a job down in Olympia.
Okay.
So
So same scope, you have the same expertise, we can lean on you a little bit?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was Brad Boss, so now I have to do all the.
Oh, I see. Okay, I got you. Okay. Thank you.
yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
Anybody else have anything they wanted to weigh in on? So, Andy, we were talking kind of before the meeting a little bit, and so one thing I personally had, there was something that I think there was. I mean, I think we're gonna prove this later today. There was something that I think there was a little bit of disagreement on, and I think there still is a little bit with regards to the on page 4, the residential area and dimensions development standards table with regards to the maximum hard surface coverage. And you thought, because when we took the vote previously, it was a 3-2 vote, and not all the commissioners were here. I think it still probably would have failed if we would have, but it still is kind of a split vote here, which is a good thing. It's always good to have people coming in from all sides of this, situation. And you'd mentioned maybe because because council is going to take this up next week in a
Yes.
study session. I don't know if you discussed it with Bruce, but you said that possibly maybe we have a person, a pro and a con person, like 2 people come from the planning commission to be able to sit up and be able to take field any questions with regards to this from council.
Yes.
And I think that's actually a good idea. I don't know if we want to take a vote here or people want to weigh in if they think that's a good or bad idea.
And I can add just a little bit more for that. Typically, when staff takes something from the Planning Commission to the City Council, we always invite 1 or 2 Planning Commission members to come along with us when we do that. I didn't do that this time because I didn't realize that was the normal process that we use here. I just was unaware. And I probably should have had it in the memo that I sent you. I told you when the study session was and when we're going to public hearing, but I didn't put out the invite. So my apologies that way. But yes, there is an invitation, certainly a standing invitation for Planning Commission members to come. Typically in the past, I guess maybe one of you has always gone to it. This time because there are still some questions and concerns over the levels of hard surface coverage that when that vote was taken, some voted yes, some voted no. Maybe one from each camp could actually come and attend the study session next Tuesday right here in the council chambers.
Yes, Mr. Zorns.
Well, I would like to, either have somebody present to dialogue with this on city council, or to have some note attached, because overall, I like what we have here, but I have 2 things that still chafe with me. One is the bump up in the percentage of coverage on the lots. There's some pretty hefty increases there. And then the other one is that I'm not at peace that decks are being dealt with as being a strong potential for being an impervious surface that's added to a building structure. Because very often decks can keep water from filtrating down into the soil. So those are the 2 things that chafe with me on this. But otherwise, I like it. And so it would be nice to have some sort of caveat, either in person or just an attached note that says, there are people who like this portion, but there's questions about this portion, and then I'm fine to leave it at that.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on? Oh, sorry, Bruce.
I just want to clarify something that I heard Commissioner Zorns identify, and that is that we're increasing the impervious surfaces allotments. That's actually not the case. Right now, within most of our detached single-family residential zones, there is no maximum impervious surface allotment. This is the first time we have had this requirement. Where we do have the requirement is within our attached residential zones, and that was 80% from our 5400A all the way up to RAC, and now we've actually lowered 2 of those the R5400A and the R4000 are now 75% versus 80%. So it's not that we have increased the impervious surface, we have established a new requirement to establish impervious surface, or I'm sorry, hard surface coverage. So this is a new requirement that we have not had before.
Right, I'm just going off of the charts that were proposed beforehand. Initially, when we started looking at this, these numbers were much lower than what they ended up settling.
And that's the correct way that we want to identify. During the course of the discussion, the numbers fluctuated from lower a little bit, and may end up a little bit higher than what you're certainly comfortable with. Yes, okay. I want to make sure there was a clarity, because it sounded as if you were saying there was never been any, we were increasing the impervious cover, and I'm going, oh, wait, no, wait. All right, thank you.
Great. Anyone else? Oh, Commissioner Cecil.
One issue that was brought up, I don't know, 3 or 4 meetings ago, had to do with limiting of driveway widths and walkways in the front yard setback. And I think, Jason, you had maybe initiated some discussion about that. And one of the thoughts that came out of that was, hey, we're limiting the impervious or the hard surface on the lot. Are we then going to tell them, here's where you can put it? And so I guess for me, unless this is kind of a design issue, it seems to me like that's, now that we have a limit per lot on impervious or hard surface, to me, it doesn't really square up that we're now also kind of telling them, hey, by the way, not only can you only have, 60%, but you can't put it here, you have to put it over here, that kind of thing. So I don't know if there was further conversation on that. I missed a meeting or two. So does anybody have anything to add to that discussion?
I think we basically decided to go, I think I originally tried to pare it down, the width, and then we went back to the original one.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw it in red on the packet, so.
No, there was no change. Right now, the requirement is 8 feet, and there was no change to that requirement.
Right, so I guess maybe I was hearing it wrong, but it sounded like, does there need to be that requirement there for an 8-foot sidewalk?
Any requirement at all?
Does there need to be a limitation on a sidewalk in the front? If somebody is a landscape guy or something and wants to put something fancy, is there a reason that we're limiting that kind of stuff in the front yard? Is it a design issue maybe, or is it just something that's always been there that we just, we're, I don't know, comfortable with or whatever? So.
It was just something that was in the code, correct, Bruce?
Well,
previously, or was it?
This is the language that was decided upon by the commission during their public hearing, so
Yeah.
it would be very difficult to backtrack from that. Essentially what happened is because we have closed the public hearing process, and now we're just working on the findings, which is basically a technical exercise. If you wanted to change the code language, you would have to open up the public hearing process again.
So we just need to vote on this.
Well, you have to look at the findings. That's basically the idea
Right.
behind it. Make sure the findings reflect what your discussion was. And what you had just identified was a good element. There was discussion among the commission about, well, do we even need to have this? And I believe at the last hearing, and I think
Actually,
Wayne remembers it.
What was in here before is there was an edit that you may have remembered where I think it was reduced to either 4 or 5 feet. And we thought, well, if we're putting a limit on the amount of hard surface, there isn't necessarily any need to kind of reduce this previously adopted sidewalk width or walkway width from 8 down to 4 or 5, whatever that. So that was what got stricken at the last meeting.
I understand.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, that clarifies it.
But your other point's right about 8 feet. If you are having this hard surface limit, then perhaps you don't need a standard at all. I'm sorry. Oh, sure.
There you go.
Great. Thanks, Wayne.
Yeah, no, I think that clarifies it for me. I guess my only other comments would be probably on the same table that everybody else maybe is thinking about. One question I had on the multifamily zones, how do we calculate that percentage? Is it percentage of the net buildable area? Is it percentage of the lot? Bruce, can you shed some light on that?
I don't know, what did you guys write? Okay, hold on.
Previously had 80.
No, it's based upon net buildable area, or is it gross site area? Of their site area, so it'd be the gross site area.
Gross site area? Minus, so gross site area including or excluding sensitive areas?
Including,
Including?
yes.
That's kind of interesting. So you could potentially have over 100% of your net buildable area be impervious if you're including your, I mean, I know it's just a calculation, but you could pave everything potentially. Is that what you're saying? Because it's a percentage of the gross site area, including the critical areas. So if you have 5 acres, 1 acre is wetland, so you have 4 net buildable, you can go 80% of 5 acres because that's your gross, and that's basically all of your developable area. Am I reading that right?
Well, yeah, except of course you can't put it any on the critical area, buffer certainly.
Okay.
Right, but what you were saying is you could, Commissioner Stedman, you wanna-
Yeah, your example doesn't really make sense because anything above our 40,000 anyway, the max you can go is 50%.
No, I'm talking about the high density stuff where we're doing apartments or whatever.
Okay, okay, gotcha.
So, you know, you have I guess a unit yield calculation, but if you've got an apartment building or whatever, and you're limited by, say, a wetland and its buffer, which maybe is 1 acre, and you have 4 net buildable acres left, then in theory, your coverage could be 100% of that net buildable area.
But not impervious surface coverage, because you still would have to calculate in your hard surfaces. Of
Hard
the-
surface coverage, sorry.
So
this
vegetated roof
table.
or porous pavers or something to that effect. So but it's still, I would think, nearly 100% soil disturbance and native vegetation disturbance at that.
And I don't know that I necessarily have a problem with it. I guess it just maybe, you know, from our existing code, Bruce, and the way we calculate density and you know, do our calculations in terms of the areas that you use for, you know, in a plat, it's easy, right? You have a lot, you have whatever, 10 lots, and it's 9,600, and whatever the lot is, it's a percentage of that is your hard surface coverage for that lot, right? But if you have a multifamily project, which we're applying these same standards to, or a different level of these standards to, how do you calculate that? Seems like it would be based more on the net buildable area, a percentage of the net buildable, but
But what the code says, which is 1214.140.b, it says impervious surface, the way it's currently calculated in the code, shall mean the ground cover of the entire development covered by any impervious surface and expressed as a percentage of the total lot area. So,
so I guess what's the total lot area in a multifamily project? Does it exclude the, you know? So I guess that suggests that it would not include sensitive areas, so those would be excluded. Potentially roads, those be excluded from the lot area in a, I'm not trying to be difficult here, but
Yeah,
seems like
I think so.
For multifamily, yes, the road standard would be included as part of the lot area.
included, okay,
Yes, yes.
okay. Okay, so that was more of a clarification for me. I don't know if any more thought needs to be put into that in terms of maybe at the council level or staff level. And then the other comment I guess I had on the table in general, the R40,000 zone seems, I mean, 50% of that seems pretty high to me. I mean, that's 20 to 25,000 square feet of hard surface. Now, if there's farming or something that's allowed in that zone that would justify that, are you aware of something, Bruce, in that particular zone? Okay, so that's my only comment. on that.
Great, thanks. So with that, so does, just to get it out of the way one more time, so is there anybody, how do you all feel, maybe raise of hands or just yay or nay on if you think we should have a person, speaking for and against, or if, at the council meeting? How do you guys feel about that? Do you think it's necessary, not necessary? Commissioner Stebbin?
I don't think it's necessary. I think if it's just stated or presented the fact that there was some discussion, then it was split kind of down the middle. I think that kind of explains the process that we went through. I don't think we need to have, a pro and a con.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Commissioner Cabe?
Yeah, I think it's all pretty clear here. I think it would be valuable, and I don't know that we have to have a pro and a con and debate in front of them, but if there's one person that can say, hey, we wrestled with this section a little bit. Some people voted for, some people voted against. I don't know that we have to go into the details about why they're passionate one way or another. I think we just kind of say, this was a tough area or a stumbling block that people, voted opposite ways on.
Great. Commissioner Cecil? Yeah.
I was just agreeing with Pat.
Okay, great. So, I'd be happy to attend. I do plan on, I'd like to attend it. I don't know if is anybody else who'd like to attend as well?
I don't know that we need to designate. I think
All
it's just open, right?
Just open? Well, we can't have more, I guess, Bruce?
more.
Because it is a study session,
My
so.
apologies.
Oh, no problem, no problem. So it's a study session, so how many of us, only 3 of us can attend it?
3,
Correct.
yes.
Okay. So is there more than 3 of us who would like to attend it?
I'm going to be at the study session because the University of Washington's going to be presenting a discussion about their master plan.
Yep.
I will be there, so
Right.
I don't know if, if 3 of you would like to be there for that portion. I can step out and wait until the U of W portion comes up.
Okay. So is there anybody else who'd like to attend?
I have football practice, so I won't be there, so you can cross
Okay,
me
you
off
still
that list.
playing? Okay. Anybody else want to, or, so I guess I'd like to attend, so I'll be there. So I don't know if there's anybody else who wants to be there, and we'll just, it doesn't look like there's gonna be more than 3 of us, so I don't think we have to do anything official.
No, you don't have to do anything official.
Okay, great.
So do we have both a pro and con on the impervious that want to be there, or is it going to be,
Yeah.
the chair is going to represent the position of all?
Right, oh, right. So, I'd be willing to represent both positions or, and just, or like Blake said, maybe just tell them, this is what the discussion was, kind of let the facts be there, say we're kind of split there, this is why.
And if I may, I think that it would be fair to include a finding in your findings, just add one more that identifies the difficulty the commission had regarding this topic and how it was, we kind of give a little bit of background. Okay, it's a brand new requirement, but there was still some concern about how much was being preserved and not being too onerous with a new regulation. And so we can add that kind of flavor into a finding for you.
That would be great.
Just to have a record of that.
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay, everybody? All right. All right, with that, so I guess we're at a point where we're take a motion to approve the findings then, correct?
Yeah, and in your motion, if you could also include as amended, because I think we had a couple of changes that I heard. Did we have a couple of changes?
We haven't gone through a couple of the other emails that we've received.
Apologies, yes, correct, correct.
But when you do that motion, as amended and authorize the chair to sign, just make that part of your motion possible. Thank you.
Okay. And it looks like there's a couple from Commissioner Clark who emailed in. I think either Wayne or Andy is going to touch in on that. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So the comment was on section 12.14, 140B. It was referring to permeable pavement, and what the idea was that from an engineering standpoint, that means asphalt and concrete. And he was thinking it might be just better to put those words in there. But we actually felt that the permeable pavement could be a different material. It may not just be asphalt or concrete. You could have different types of material being used. So we didn't want to limit it at that point. So we were going to leave it with no change at this time.
I think we're all okay with that. This looks like, yep.
Okay. And then the other comment was the other table in the code revisions, 1218.040, under the LID elements, and he felt that it should apply to all landscaping types. It actually does. It's just the way that the document was formatted. It comes up with a blank column when it really is just carrying through. Maybe there should have been quotation marks or something saying this carries all the way through the table and it doesn't end on the first page. It actually continues on. So his concern is a good one to point out to us, but it actually isn't true. It applies to all. Yep, all landscape types. And those were the two concerns that he expressed to us.
Oh, great. Thanks, Andy.
You're welcome.
Well, one more really minor thing, but in
yes.
in 12.18050 in the table, there's a typo. It says turf grass of ground covers, and it probably should be or. Under shrubs and ground covers.
Can you state the code location
Yeah.
again?
12.18.050, and it's in table A.
Okay.
Did you guys get that one? Up to or?
Yep. Okay.
Thanks.
Did any other commissioners have any questions with regards to anything else we had in the packet this week? Any changes in the findings or
I have
typos?
one more clarifying question for
Sure.
Bruce.
Sure.
When you talk about doing the additional findings and describing kind of what we went through to reach what we've voted on last time, are you going to write that up and then send it out to us, or is that just going to be included in there as an additional finding?
Usually it's just included as an additional finding, and then the chair takes a look at the finding and says, yeah, this is kind of what we'd like to have done. The responsibility is put on the chair, but if the commission would like to see the whole thing, that we can do that as well. As a
No,
courtesy
I'm comfortable with that, but are you also going to include some of the imagery that we saw and some of the other developments in the current kind of building patterns that are happening under the existing code to show that we would actually be gaining something and the new developments would have less impervious surface?
And those are illustrations that were provided by the consultant?
They were from July 20th, 2016, city staff compiled by you and Andy.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. That's actually part of the record. So
Okay, perfect.
It was provided to the commission, so as part of the record, you can have that added to your findings if you so desire, but usually we try not to do that, but we can certainly add it if you think it's important.
I mean, I think it's one of the things that helped me
Okay.
get to where I got, so even just a reference for it, I think would be valuable. And I mean, it's up to the rest of the commission to see what they want to present to the council, but that's my thought on it.
Okay. And it is listed as an exhibit in the final findings, and so it would be forwarded on already to city council.
Right.
So it's already going to be in their packet of information.
I think what I hear Commissioner Hampton identifying, though, is that he would like to have a little bit more reference within the findings itself regarding maybe the meat of that table. And we can do something like that, certainly.
I think it was pretty important in the discussion of why we reached what we reached.
Got it? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe you could put a reference to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I guess if nobody else has any other questions or comments with regards to the findings, I guess we're ready for a motion to be able to complete this. I don't know if anybody wants to take a shot at that, or is that something that I should take a shot at?
Chair can't make motions.
I did not think so. Commissioner Stead?
Let me give it a shot. I make a motion that that the proposed code amendment regarding the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System Phase 2 requirements, the Planning Commission finding, conclusions, and recommendations be approved as modified by tonight's discussion, with approval for the commissioner to sign those once we have the minor modifications.
The chair, that is.
The chair.
Yes, thank you.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And is there any report from staff tonight?
Just to remind you of the meeting next week, the joint meeting with the city council, it should be kind of an interesting discussion to talk about the work program and some of those things. You're going to get a pretty good sized packet in the next couple of days.
And so can you just go into a little bit of specifics about what might be covered there? Or is it, what kind of things we're going to be talking about?
Well, actually, Gary Hassler is actually working on the actual packet itself, but we did provide some input. And essentially what it is, it's just going to talk about a couple of things. One is the upcoming schedule and how we're going to try and get these things coordinated between the commission and the council, as well as identifying some council / commission work schedules, and kind of a way for everybody to understand what everybody else is working on. I think that might be of great assistance to us as we go through. As well as, of course, it'll give you a projected longer time frame as to when we're going to bring some things to you, including clustering, which I know you're all interested in seeing. So you'll get that packet here probably Friday, and you'll look at this and say, oh, this is fun stuff. So it'll be a good discussion with the council about the work program.
It'll probably be decided after the meeting, but do we have an idea on October dates that we're meeting yet as a planning commission?
Yes, we do.
Okay, all?
No, and I can't remember what they are on top of the head, but there are a couple October meeting dates. We'll get you that information here Friday.
Okay, reports from members. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We adjourn.
Thank you.
Need a second.